usually did during the season on Tuesdays with Pete. We're going to just power rank the remaining.
This is a good respite
teams.
from a 32-team power ranking.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was nice actually watching the game and not worrying about that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So we'll start with, we're going to do it by conference, and then we'll do a little conglomerate at the end. Start with the AFC. Pete, what do you got for the AFC?
Chiefs, number one.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm sticking with where I had them, these teams in my
fair
end of
Nothing
season.
changed your
Makes
mind.
sense.
Yeah, so Chiefs number one. They were number one in the power rankings. They are number one. They got to win 2 games. They go to the Super Bowl. Period.
Well, they say, and still?
Two games at home to go to the Super Bowl. And everybody's sitting there trying to figure out ways that they're not going to do it. Look, I picked Buffalo before the season, and I think Buffalo still has a chance. I think Baltimore has a chance. But how do you think about going into that place and beating that guy and that coach? Yeah. So Chiefs are number one.
Okay.
My number one team is the Kansas City Chiefs as well. For all the reasons you just said. That was really well put there, Pete.
I have the Ravens number one. They have been the best offense, the best defense coming in the playoffs. They just are. They're the last second half of the season. They have been insanely good.
Don't you worry about the pass? I know the pass defense has been better, but like you even saw little hints of it last week. Guys getting open, Russell hitting a couple moon balls for big plays. I worry about that a little bit.
But they won't face a receiver as good as George Pickens the rest of the postseason. So.
No, but they'll face a bunch of group.
Or the rest of the AFC postseason. Maybe the NFC.
Yeah, they'll play group that are better.
So
Number two,
who you got, Pete?
I'm going to go Buffalo.
All right. Fair. So Chiefs, Bills.
I mean, I think Chiefs and Bills have been on a collision course all season long, and I'm not backing away from that. I think Buffalo, the last time they played Baltimore, no Milano, no Bernard, no Taron Johnson. I mean, that's your nickel corner and your two linebackers.
Well, will they have Taron Johnson this week?
He was banged up.
Yeah, he's supposed to be back.
Okay.
He'll be back. Those guys are gangsters in Buffalo.
So I think Buffalo is a much better team than they were. And by the way, that was a Sunday nighter on the road, and Henry ran wild. I think it'll be different this time around. I like Buffalo number 2.
Look, I love the Buffalo Bills as much as the next guy. Josh Allen, if I was a kid, I would have his poster on the wall probably. But it's Lamar Jackson. It's Derrick Henry. It's that defense that's found a way to come around, and John Harbaugh and that culture. I think that they're number 2. Bringing Derrick Henry into the fold, we've talked about it ad nauseum. He makes Lamar that much more dangerous. Yes, standing alone, Derrick Henry is as dangerous as they come. But when you add it to the fact that there's now a true mesh point that requires respect and attention from all levels of the defense, it makes that team as dangerous as anybody. And Lamar, he's got a massive chip on his shoulder about this postseason. And, the way that the Kansas City Chiefs went in and beat the Ravens in Baltimore last year, I know it left a bad taste in his mouth. I heard Derek talk in the locker room after week 18 and talking about getting this team refocused to make that final push. And I buy into that. I think Derrick Henry might be the piece that was missing from a Super Bowl run for this Baltimore Ravens team.
Have to agree. Because I have number 1. Chiefs, I have a number 2. Not going to denigrate the Chiefs. I think they're an awesome team. I think the Ravens are better.
You're not going to denigrate them now.
I have the Bills then obviously 3. And we all have the Texans last. So
yeah.
For Pete,
although they played well last week.
They played well.
Yeah,
but these are powerhouses at the top 3.
Yeah.
Top 3 of the AFC they're tough, man. So Pete has the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans. Kyle has Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Texans. I have Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, Texans. Let's flip to the NFC. Pete, give yours. Just do the top. Just go through all 4 because you and Kyle ended up with the same list.
Yeah, just give him my list while you give yours.
Lions number 1.
Yep.
Eagles number 2.
Yep.
Rams number 3. Commanders number 4. And I didn't like what I saw from the Eagles last week. I'll be honest with you. And I might have had them because of the defensive concerns about the Lions. But we saw the Lions last time they played. They kind of compensated for those defensive concerns a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, with what they did to Sam Darnold. And I think the Eagles have some worries on offense to me. The passing game, when it's time to throw the football, can they throw the football consistently?
Elementary.
Right. It worries me. So, plus I don't, the whole reading on the sideline book, okay?
we did this yesterday.
It infuriates me.
Yeah.
I would have gone if I was.
Book went up to number 1 on the Amazon.
You know what I would have done?
List. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's straight. I would, if I'm Sirianni, I walk over there, take that book, and I take it right from him and tear it up in front of everybody.
But did you see that he had done it a few weeks back against the Bucs?
But did he read it? Did he read it, or did he pull it out? Because he said
it's a show.
He had it on the sideline against the Bucs,
but he didn't open it and sit there like he was reading it. So it's ridiculous. If I'm Sirianni and I'm his head coach, I'm going over there, taking it out of his hands, and I'm ripping it to shreds right in front of everybody. He said, read the playbook.
It's akin to, those ladies that get up on flights and they do yoga in the middle of the aisle, and they're like standing on their head, or the people in the airport that want to get their namaste on a little bit. Look, I understand that. There's rooms for that. Don't do it on the bench. The bench is for communicating with your teammates. And if you have frustrations, if you got 3 targets and 1 catch, find a way to communicate with your quarterback.
Do you know that there actually are rooms? This will lead me to something, by the way. No, I'm going to tell you something because I could not.
New segment, Pete Prisco's
rooms. I'm going to tell you this because I could not believe this.
Yeah, there's sensory deprivation.
There you go.
Rooms. Yeah, sensory.
This is at the Falcon Stadium when I'm getting ready to go to the game. I'm sitting there and my wife goes,
well, now there are people who have some neurological differences that struggle and as it pertains to sensory stuff.
Please enjoy
lights.
this sensory room. This room provides a safe and calming environment for our guests that might be feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you get in there and just start screaming?
You're such an asshole. Banging on the door. They're coming.
I mean, I'm like, what? If you would have said that to somebody 30 years ago, they would have looked at you like, what are you talking about?
So at the airport, I understand this because everybody has to travel. Not everybody has to go to an NFL game. And when you go to an NFL game, you should understand what to expect. Even assholes that bring very young children put headphones on them sometimes in the stands.
So what is it? What is that room? What is it? I didn't open the door because I didn't want.
It's a soundproof room. Man.
And so what? You just sitting there for a while and goes in.
Yeah, it's a cool off It's a cool off section. Sometimes when I get hit too much by my kid, and I'm just like, Daddy has to go to the bathroom for a second, and I shut the door, and cry.
To read AJ Brown's explanation, he said, "This game is 90% mental and 10% physical for me. I bring it to every game and I read it between each drive. I use it to refocus and lock in despite what may transpire in the game, good or bad. People tend to create controversy when they don't know.
That's the greatest bunch of BS I've ever heard in my entire life. That's just a guy who caught one pass and he's over there showing his ass. That's all that is. I don't buy that one bit. I'm sorry. And by the way, if I had, just for example, if I had taken a book out in my high school team and sat on the bench and just decided to read it,
you would have got called every name under the sun.
You would have come over and slapped the living daylights out of me. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
I just, anything relate to that? Your NFL experience?
Look,
anything?
There are red flag behaviors on the sideline that I've seen. None of them. I've never in my life seen a guy just pull out a piece of literature and start reading on the sideline.
You've seen
I would walk
hot dogs and
say,
stuff.
Look, enough people have seen you reading this thing. You can put it away now and focus up.
But you've seen guys eating hot dogs and stuff on the sideline.
I'd rather Mark Sanchez eat a hot dog than this guy.
Me too. Because this reeks of look at me, look at me.
That's what I said.
It's a wide receiver though. They all do. Not they all. Most of them.
Jamar Chase doesn't read a fucking sentence.
Right.
He just goes out there and plays football. Okay.
Right.
Don't tell. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't do a lick of reading during the football game. But not only that,
have we gotten to the point where these coaches have gotten too soft in the way that, like, you heard Mike McDaniel talking about, well, I fined them and they still were late. Well, that's on you, bud. That's a reflection of you. This is a reflection of Sirianni. Go over there and tell them, look, put the book away. You read the book at halftime if you want to.
Send Big Dom over there to burn the books. Dom.
You know who else burned books? No. All right. Eagles, though.
Okay. Next.
Their defense. I have them number one. I have the Eagles number one. Their defense is unbelievable right now. And unfortunately, no Nakobe Dean. That was a big injury to the patellar tendon. Not a great injury to have, unfortunately.
That's all awesome. Stability, forward and backward stability.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a bad history. There's a bad history of patella tendon injuries in Philadelphia, by the way. Not on that field, but one time years ago, wide receiver by the name of Wendell Davis for the Chicago Bears actually tore both of them in the same game.
Same play?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
He hit a dead spot
in that turf.
Terrible. But The Eagles defense right now it's just something to behold. I mean, the talent on that roster is unlike.
Well,
any other
Nolan
defense.
Smith has grown up a
And
little
Nolan
bit.
Smith, that's the biggest thing. He's playing like a man. I mean, the hit he had on Elton Jenkins that took him out of that game was
Grown
big boy
man
stuff. I mean, that was like why you play the game right there. And he's been playing possessed the last
But not
4
having
weeks of the
Dean will
season.
be big for their coverage too, because
He can actually move.
Their physicality shines through on both sides of the
It
ball.
does.
In
They're
2018, I practiced against the best defense in the National Football League week in, week out. Chicago Bears with Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, Roquan Smith, Eddie Jackson. And I'm talking about these guys at the height of their career. When we got to the wild card, we played against the Eagles, and granted, they weren't as talented as the defense we played against every day. They were the toughest, meanest, most physical group of people I had ever played against in my life. And I could see it in the game that the Eagles just played, that the Packers were not ready to match that physicality.
Yeah.
And, scheme aside, all that stuff aside, at the end of the day, it's still a game of imposing your will on players. And when I saw Lane Johnson, I think it was Quay Walker, he took him and just drove him into the dirt on a first down. And Quay Walker's limping to the sideline. There's a different guy walking up the tunnel every 30 seconds for the Green Bay Packers. It's not like, oh, this is just the end of the year. That's what happens. No, they ran into a buzzsaw on both sides of the ball physically. That defensive front plays with the same intentions that offensive line plays with. And it's no secret. It's no surprise. They probably practice that way. And I just think it's something to keep an eye on. They are a physical group.
But I think when Jenkins went down, it changed the way
it
changed the whole way the Packers were going to play that game.
Well, they had 3 holding penalties.
Right.
On their
And those
backup guard after that.
those guys didn't really know what they were doing and what level to get to and everything else.
They missed.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, they missed Jordan Morgan. They didn't mention on the broadcast, which blew my mind. But
yeah,
their first round pick was supposed to be like
right.
your insurance plan, and he had a broken hand. He's out for the season. So I have Lions too, but then I have Commanders over the Rams. I think that's an interesting conversation to me because Jane Daniels, I'm just not betting against him right now. I'd take him over Stafford right now. I know Stafford came out dealing, but Daniels,
I might push back on that.
Daniels with his legs in that offense. I don't know, man.
But experience
year.
matters.
It does.
It does. It matters a great deal. And he handled it the other day, but now you got to go do it again. And that Stafford's been through it.
Let's call it equal.
Yeah.
Who would you rather have, McVay or Cliff?
McVay, obviously. But then I think, say, flip to the defensive side of the football.
Quinn or
I think Commanders defense right now.
Shula.
Rams defense. I don't know. I just think it's close.
That one's close. That one's tough for me.
That Washington Commanders offensive line got bullied a little bit, and they got outskilled. They got outflanked a couple times.
They did.
Against the Rams front, that might be tough sledding too.
Well, yeah, they won't be playing until the championship game, but that would be an interesting championship game if that did happen.
Oh my God.
And that would be, and it would see that one coming.
It would be in LA, right? Yeah.
Well,
Arizona.
we'll see. Yeah, right. If they can host it by then.